I am Captain Spawn, and this is day 317 of Spawn Year. Yesterday I realized that I've read through such an enormous library of Spawn comics that, as much as it might pain me to revisit them, I could really use a refresher course on all the people and demons and retcons. I mean, I've spent over a decade immersing myself in Star Trek lore and trying to commit all of that to memory, and I thought that was hard, but it doesn't hold a candle to Spawn. Sure, maybe Enterprise gets close to that level of continuity mistakes, and Trek on the whole has its fair share, but it's cohesive enough that they stick out like clown at a ballet. In Spawn, it's the stuff that actually makes sense that sticks out. So at the risk of confusing myself even further, and trying to pull out the hair I no longer have, I decided to create a Spawn quiz book to grill myself in my free time. It's not like my powers will allow me to make anything that's not Spawn related, otherwise I'd be refreshing myself on Star Trek. I'll be lucky if I remember Kirk's middle name by the time I get out of here. It's been so long since I've been in practice. Now I know what you're thinking. Can you even create a Spawn trivia book out of thin air without writing it yourself? Did such a thing ever even exist? I doubt it, but I materialized a functioning Spawn Dreamcast from out of nowhere, and I'm pretty sure those didn't exist either, and I don't even know how Dreamcasts work. So I concentrated all my energy on a Spawn trivia book with a diverse assortment of questions running the gambit of everything I've reviewed thus far, but I must have been focused too much on my experiences with the reviews rather than the items themselves, because what manifested instead was a Spawn Year quiz book, complete with a diverse assortment of questions about this hell I've been in for the last 10 months. Well, that's not going to help my memory for Spawn continuity much, and I considered just trying again, but my curiosity got the better of me, and I tried my hand at this instead. I know most of it. On the far left field off chance that somehow someone ever reads these journals, including those I left in the graveyard, I'm going to include a few Spawn Year trivia questions at the end of today's entry. Enjoy, dear reader. In the interim, let's get started on today's review. This is the first of another two-part story entitled The Monster in the Bubble, about a bizarre serial murder case, aren't they all, in which someone is managing to gruesomely eviscerate 3 people, at least one inside a locked room with no sign of forced entry. The only thing they all have in common, because this is a Spawn comic and Hein loves to shoehorn in Image or the comic book industry and, for some reason, depict it in a questionable light, is they're all winners of a manga drawing competition. What does this have to do with Spawn? Well, as near as I can figure, this all somehow factors into Maman's elaborate schemes, as he suddenly broadcasts the news into Al's parents' living room on a TV that's shown nothing but snow for years. Spawn learns from the report that his brother Mark, who suddenly factors into the plot one panel after Spawn conveniently and dramatically declares Mark was the best of us, is now an FBI criminal profiler brought onto that case, which is being investigated by incompetent dimwits because no one noticed the manga artist pattern until Mark had the brilliant notion to Google the victims. Now, I'm no homicide detective, but in, 2008, when lots of folks are already walking around with the internet in their pockets, I'm thinking the first step in standard protocol ought to be Google the victims. I guess my mom wanted to lure Spawn to Mark, and I'm sure it's not just to finally get him into the present-day narrative somehow. Spawn and Nix are sure it's a trap, but Spawn intelligently chooses to investigate anyway, because for once in his pitiful, plot-driven existence, he knows the story can't progress if he remains in character and stands there hanging out with his insane parents. And oh boy, are they insane. You know, it might have been tragic and touching when Bernard, trapped for decades in his own house behind a magic barrier with a wife who hates him and is a crazy devil worshiper, is overjoyed that his eldest son is a doctor. But I can't get past his whining that he was too stupid to get past his grandfather's warning about Maman and Gunslinger Spawn to care. No explanation, he just says he really should have shown his sons that journal, and that's all we get. It turns out Spawn was reading it, and I still think that really should have been in 174, and that all of this could easily have been avoided. Al's whole family are painted like morons just to make Maman look like a really good organizer. He ought to plan Star Trek conventions. Al's father is a pathetic wimp and an idiot for no reason, and his mother is a psychotic devil worshiper for no reason. Sure, this could all be fascinating, if not kind of implausible, if I had any idea how they got so messed up in the first place. But like so many things, they're just props to explain plot points away. So Spawn and Nix show up, freak out Mark, and then Nix has to put him under some Jedi mind spell just so he'll do the job he would have done if they'd left him alone. By the way, I still don't know why Maman is allowing Nix to have her magic, except that he's so powerful that I guess if she doesn't have that, she and Spawn can't go up against him, and then we wouldn't have a story. Mark gets lucky and finds the murderer right away, a guy with a rare illness that forces him to stay isolated. If he shares even the same air as another human being, he'll die instantly. He's been cordoned off in an airtight room his whole life, and the seal broke during the apocalypse, so he's hideously deformed to boot, probably just to make him creepier and make him more tragic, so we'll buy him killing the winners of a manga contest for revenge. That's a crypto freak motivation if ever I've heard one. He's astral projecting himself and then transforming into a hideous monster, and I guess Maman has something to do with that. Spawn's not able to stop him from killing his latest victim, and then to be continued. I must say, this one's quite dense and moving at a steady clip for a Spawn comic, and the unnerving artwork and unusual panel layouts are quite effective. And now, just for you, here are a few questions from my new Spawn Year trivia book. Number 1, what is Freakadoo's favorite drink? Number 2, how many failed prototype Doomsvents clones were there before the real deal? Number 3, what did the sign on the refrigerator say when my skin turned green? Number 4, what was the only album uploaded to my Spawn Year MP3 player? Number 5, what food will I, if I can help it, never eat again? Number 6, before the second sugar coma, who tried to convince me to commit suicide? Number 7, what comic did I read before I was supposed to and have been dreading ever since? Number 8, what ridiculous rule did Doomsvents once implement, forcing me to do something whenever his head appeared? Number 9, on what fateful day did I murder Doomsvents? And finally, what property did Doomsvents consider making me review for a year instead of Spawn? Signed, Captain Spawn.